Hello and welcome back to this new edition of News Today. Without delay, let's explore the headlines first. Ministry of Women and Child Development released Model Foster Care Guidelines 2024. Terms of reference adopted for a UN Framework Convention on International Tax Cooperation. As per NCAER, radical changes in inflation targeting regime could be counterproductive. India and Malaysia elevate ties to comprehensive strategic partnership. 10 years of India-Japan Special Global and Strategic Partnership commemorated. Nanoparticles can improve fungal infection treatment. In our first news, we'll be discussing an important development concerning child welfare in India. The Ministry of Women and Child Development has just released the Model Foster Care Guidelines or MFCG 2024. Let's dive into what these new guidelines entail. First, it's important to note that these guidelines are a continuation of the MFCG 2016. They are grounded in several key legislations and policies, including the Juvenile Justice, Care and Protection of Children Act 2015, the JJ Model Rules of 2016, the Adoption Regulations of 2022, and the Mission Vatsalya scheme. These frameworks collectively aim to ensure the well-being of children in need of care and protection. So what exactly is foster care? Simply put, foster care involves placing a child in the home of a family that is not their biological family. This family is carefully selected and approved by the Child Welfare Committee to provide a safe and nurturing environment for the child. Now let's move on to the key provisions in the revised guidelines. The guidelines have expanded the scope of foster care to include children above the age of 6 who are living in childcare institutions or within the community. This also includes hard-to-place children, those with special needs, and children who have guardians that are deemed unfit. But who is eligible to become a foster parent? In a significant change from the 2016 guidelines, the new guidelines allow any person, regardless of their marital status, to foster a child. While single females can foster and adopt a child of any gender, single males can only foster and adopt male children. Additionally, for couples, there is a requirement of a stable marital relationship for at least 2 years. Another important update is regarding foster adoption. Under the new guidelines, a foster parent who has been fostering a child for a minimum of 2 years, down from the 5 years in the previous guidelines, is now eligible to adopt that child. This change aims to make the adoption process smoother and quicker for foster parents and children. To give you some context on how adoption is structured in India, the Central Adoption Resource Authority or CARA serves as the nodal body for the adoption of Indian children. CARA is a statutory body of the Ministry of Women and Child Development established under JJ Act 2015. Regulates both in-country and inter-country adoptions, focusing primarily on orphaned, abandoned, and surrendered children. In conclusion, the Model Foster Care Guidelines of 2024 represent a significant step forward in ensuring that every child in India has the opportunity to grow up in a safe, loving, and supportive environment. In our next news, we are discussing a significant step taken on the global stage regarding international taxation. The United Nations has recently adopted the terms of reference for a framework convention on international tax cooperation. Let's break down what this means. To start, the UN's ad hoc committee has approved a package of guidelines aimed at establishing a UN global tax treaty. The goal here is clear: creating a legitimate, fair, stable, inclusive, and effective international tax system. This initiative is seen as a vital step towards addressing global tax challenges. Now, how did the countries respond to this? Developing nations, including India, largely supported the treaty's terms of reference. On the other hand, industrialized countries such as Australia, Israel, Japan, the UK, and the USA were not in favor. This difference in stance highlights the varying perspectives on global tax policies. So, what are the objectives of this UN Global Tax Convention? The primary aim is to strengthen international tax cooperation, ensuring that it is both inclusive and effective. The convention also seeks to address current tax-related challenges, particularly those arising from the digitalization of economies and the global operations of large multinational corporations. But there's more. The convention is also about mobilizing domestic resources and using tax policies to drive sustainable development. This is in line with the broader goals of Addis Ababa Action Agenda on Financing for Development and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals or SDGs. Moving on, let's talk about the commitments outlined in the UN Global Tax Convention. It emphasizes the fair allocation of taxing rights, ensuring that multinational corporations are taxed equitably. Additionally, it seeks to tackle tax-related illicit financial flows, tax evasion, and tax avoidance by high net worth individuals. The convention also addresses the taxation of income derived from cross-border services, and it promotes effective mutual administrative assistance in tax matters, including the resolution of tax disputes. Before we wrap up, let's quickly touch on another global initiative in this area, the OECD Global Minimum Tax. This initiative, based on the Global Anti-Base Erosion Model rules, mandates that multinational corporations pay a minimum tax rate of 15% in each jurisdiction where they operate. This reduces the incentive for profit shifting and aims to create a fairer global tax landscape. In conclusion, the adoption of the terms of reference for the UN Framework Convention on International Tax Cooperation marks a critical step towards a more equitable and effective international tax system. Ahead, let's dive into an important topic that affects the very foundation of our economy: India's inflation targeting regime. Recently, the National Council for Applied Economic Research, or NCAER, released a working paper titled Inflation Targeting in India, a further assessment. This paper has sparked some crucial discussions, so let's break it down together. First, let's understand what the inflation targeting regime is all about. Introduced in the year 2015 through the Monetary Policy Framework Agreement between the Union Government and the Reserve Bank of India, this regime set a clear primary objective for our monetary policy, maintaining price stability while also considering growth. This became even more solidified when the RBI Act was amended in the year 2016, giving a statutory basis to the Monetary Policy Framework and the Monetary Policy Committee, or MPC. Now, you might be wondering, what exactly is the target for inflation? Well, under this regime, the RBI is tasked with targeting Consumer Price Index, or CPI, inflation at 4% with a tolerance band of plus minus 2%. That means inflation can range from 2% to 6%, and this target is reviewed every 5 years. The MPC, which is key to this process, is a 6-member committee. It includes 3 ex officio members from the RBI and 3 external members appointed by the Union Government. This diverse group works together to ensure that inflation stays within the set target. Now let's move on to the key findings of the NCAER paper. The report says that broadening the mandate of the RBI to include responsibilities beyond price stability, such as developing corporate bond market, could dilute its focus. This might make it harder for the RBI to achieve its primary goal of maintaining price stability, and it could also affect its accountability. Next, it says that moving to core inflation against headline inflation with neglecting food price inflation for an extended period can have negative consequences. Another important point raised by the paper is debate between focusing on headline inflation versus core inflation. Headline inflation, which is based on the CPI and include all commodities, is a measure of the total inflation in the economy. On the other hand, core inflation excludes food and fuel prices, which are more volatile. As we wrap up, it's clear that the inflation targeting regime is a critical tool for maintaining economic stability in India. The NCAER's warning reminds us that while adjustments may be necessary, they should be made with caution to avoid unintended consequences. Next, we are discussing an important development in international relations. India and Malaysia has elevated their bilateral ties to a comprehensive strategic partnership. This marks a significant upgrade from the enhanced strategic partnership that was established back in 2015. But what does this mean, and what are the key outcomes of this enhanced relationship? Let's dive in. First up, let's talk about the big announcement. The elevation of ties was made during the state visit of Malaysia's Prime Minister to India. This move signifies a deeper commitment between the two countries to work together on various fronts, reinforcing their shared interests and goals. Now let's look at some of the key outcomes from this visit. One of the major highlights is Malaysia's decision to join the International Big Cat Alliance as a founding member. The IBCA, which has its headquarters in India, is a coalition of 96 countries and diverse organizations, all working together to conserve the populations of 7 big cat species globally. Moving on, another significant outcome is the establishment of the India-Malaysia Startup Alliance. This alliance is set to foster cooperation in developing startup ecosystems in both countries, opening new avenues for innovation and entrepreneurship. In addition, both nations agreed on the early convening of the Malaysia-India Digital Council. This council will play a crucial role in accelerating collaboration in areas like digital public infrastructure, cybersecurity, and emerging technologies. It's a step forward in embracing the digital age together. Furthermore, India and Malaysia have agreed to support and expedite the review process of the ASEAN-India Trade in Goods Agreement. This agreement is pivotal for boosting trade and economic ties not just between India and Malaysia, but also across the ASEAN region. Other agreements signed during this visit span a wide range of fields, including Ayurveda, digital technologies, culture, tourism, youth, and sports. These agreements highlight the multifaceted nature of India-Malaysia relations, showing that their partnership goes beyond just political and economic ties. To give you a bit of context, India established diplomatic relations with the Federation of Malaya, which was Malaysia's predecessor state in 1957. Since then, the relationship has grown steadily. Today, Malaysia hosts approximately 2.7 million persons of Indian origin, making it the second largest PIO community after the United States. In terms of bilateral trade, the figures are impressive, reaching $19.5 billion. The defense cooperation between the two countries is also noteworthy, with initiatives like India-Malaysia Defense Cooperation Meeting and Exercise Harimau Shakti strengthening their military ties. Lastly, it's important to mention ASEAN centrality in this partnership. India has always prioritized its relationship with ASEAN and with Malaysia set to hold the chairmanship of ASEAN in 2025. This partnership is likely to become even more significant. As we conclude, it's clear that the elevation of ties between India and Malaysia to a comprehensive strategic partnership is a major step forward. Next, let's dive into a significant milestone in international relations, 10 years of India-Japan Special Strategic and Global Partnership, or SGSP. To start, let's take a quick look back. In 2014, the relationship between India and Japan was elevated to the level of Special Strategic and Global Partnership from the earlier Strategic and Global Partnership. This upgrade wasn't just about a change in terminology. It signaled a deeper alignment of geo-economic and geostrategic interests between the two nations. Now, why was this upgrade so crucial? The SGSP goes beyond traditional security concerns. It reflects the necessity of a strategic partnership that encompasses a broad spectrum of cooperation areas. This brings us to the key pillars that uphold this partnership. First, we have the political, defense and security partnership. Then there's global security for peace and security, which extends beyond just the region of the world at large. We also see collaboration in civil nuclear energy with a focus on non-proliferation and export control. And of course, a vital aspect is the emphasis on exploring science, inspiring innovation, developing technology and connecting people. Speaking of recent developments, let's talk about the third 2+2 ministerial dialogue that took place in New Delhi. This was a significant event where India and Japan committed to enhancing cooperation, particularly in defense equipment and critical and emerging technology domains. There's also a strong focus on co-production and co-development aligning with India's Make in India initiative. Now let's discuss the broader areas of cooperation between India and Japan. In the Indo-Pacific region, both countries have shown a common resolve through strategies like Japan's Free and Open Indo-Pacific and India's Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative. The developmental cooperation is also noteworthy, with initiatives like Asia-Africa Growth Corridor and the Act East Forum. We also see their collaboration in smaller, more focused groups known as minilaterals. The Quad Security Dialogue and the Supply Chain Resilience Initiative are prime examples of this. So what exactly is the 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue? This dialogue mechanism brings together defense and foreign ministers of the two countries to discuss key issues. India not only holds this dialogue with Japan but also with the US, UK, Australia and Russia, highlighting the importance of this mechanism in global diplomacy. In conclusion, as we mark 10 years of the India-Japan SGSP, it's clear that this partnership has grown stronger and more multifaceted, covering areas from defense and technology to global peace and regional security. Ahead, we have some exciting news from the world of science and healthcare. A team of scientists has recently made a breakthrough in the treatment of fungal infections using the latest advancements in drug delivery, specifically polymeric nanoparticles. Now, what makes this method so promising? Well, the nanoformulation developed by these scientists was found to be free of cytotoxic and hemolytic effects. In simpler terms, it means that this method does not harm healthy cells or cause the destruction of red blood cells. This could be a game changer, specifically for patients dealing with conditions like asthma, cystic fibrosis, HIV, and even cancer. But before we dive deeper, let's quickly understand what nanotechnology is all about. Nanotechnology refers to a branch of science and engineering that focuses on designing, producing, and using structures, devices, and systems by manipulating atoms and molecules at a nanoscale that's 100 nanometers or less. So how is nanotechnology applied in healthcare? One of its most promising applications is in imaging and diagnostics. For instance, nanoparticles can be used as contrast agents in medical imaging techniques like MRI and CT scans, offering better visualization. But that's not all. Nanotechnology also enables targeted drug delivery, which means drugs can be delivered directly to the affected area in the body, reducing the risk of side effects. Moreover, nanotechnology is making waves in tissue engineering and regenerative medicine. Nanostructured materials such as hydrogel scaffolds can mimic the extracellular matrix, providing an environment where cells can grow and regenerate tissues. And let's not forget the role of nanotechnology in developing advanced gene sequencing technologies. These developments promise to revolutionize the way we detect and treat diseases, making healthcare more effective and accessible. But the applications of nanotechnology don't stop at healthcare. It also making significant contributions in other fields. For example, in the energy sector, nanoparticles are being used in catalysts to enhance the efficiency of chemical processes. They are also playing a crucial role in environmental remediation, where nanomaterials are employed in water purification and desalination technologies. In the world of electronics and IT, nanotechnology is enabling the continued miniaturization of devices, leading to the development of nanoscale transistors, logic gates, and memory devices. And in agriculture and the food system, nanoparticles are being used to deliver targeted nutrients, pesticides, or herbicides to improve crop yields and even enhance food packaging to improve shelf life and safety. In conclusion, the use of nanoparticles in treating fungal infections is just one example of how nanotechnology is revolutionizing various fields. From healthcare to energy and from environmental solutions to agriculture, the potential of nanotechnology is vast and still unfolding. Today's personality in the news is Shree Narayan Guru. Great social reformer from Kerala, Shree Narayan Guru was remembered on his 170th birth anniversary. Born in Chempanthi near present-day Thiruvananthapuram in Ezava family, Shree Narayan Guru was a saint, seer, philosopher, poet and social reformer who led movement against caste system and its consequences. Talking about his key contributions, he advocated for social equality, emphasizing the principle of one caste, one religion, one God for all human beings. In Arvipuram movement of 1888, he installed the Shiva idol at Arvipuram. It serves as a symbol of resistance against social injustice as traditional norms restricted temple entry to higher castes. Sri Narayan Dharma Pratipalan Yogam was founded under his guidance by Dr. Palpu Padmanabhan. His literary works include Advait Dipika, Atma Vilasam, Deve Dasikam, and Brahma Vidya Panchikam. Through his remarkable life and actions, he exemplified the values of humanism, rationality, compassion, and egalitarianism. As we conclude today's main news, let's take a moment for some quick updates. Recently, the Union Minister of Power launched 3 online portals for the power sector. One of the 3 portals is Portal DRIPS, or Disaster Resilient Infrastructure for Power Sector, which serves as a single point of contact for all stakeholders for managing inventory of specific power system equipment and critical supplies. The other 2 are Jal Vidyut Detailed Project Report Portal and Portal for Online Monitoring of Projects Thermal. The Union Minister of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution launched a pilot project for the transformation of 60 fair price shops, or FPS, into Jan Poshan Kendras. FPS are shops licensed to distribute essential commodities issued under the Essential Commodities Act 1955 to the ration card holders under Targeted Public Distribution System. Recently, a super blue moon, an occurrence that happens on average every 10 years, was observed. A super blue moon is the convergence of a supermoon and a blue moon. When the moon is at or near its closest point to the Earth at the same time as it is full, it is called a supermoon. New research broadens the applications of quantum non-local correlations, which are already used in secure communications and cryptographic key creations. Quantum non-locality describes the apparent ability of quantum particles to instantaneously know about each other's state and correlate, even when separated by large distances. 6-month period to report possession of exotic animal species, as per Living Animal Species Reporting and Registration Rules 2024, is set to expire in August 2024. As per rules, every person who is in possession of any living specimen of species listed in Schedule 4 of the Wildlife Protection Act 1972 is required to report the details of such animals. The Directorate General of GST Intelligence has detected tax evasion of Rs 1.2 trillion using fake input tax credit since 2020. Input tax credit is one of the key features of goods and services tax as a mechanism to avoid cascading of taxes. A case of vaccine-derived poliovirus infection has been reported from Meghalaya. Earlier, WHO declared India polio-free in 2014 after the last case of wild poliovirus was reported in 2011. Vaccine-derived poliovirus is a well-documented strain of poliovirus mutated from the strain originally contained in oral polio vaccine. Recently, the Court of Arbitration for Sports dismissed Indian wrestler Vinesh Phogat's appeal for a silver medal after she was disqualified for being overweight. Court of Arbitration for Sport is an institution independent of any sports organization which provides services to facilitate the settlement of sports-related disputes through arbitration or mediation. Before we conclude today's bulletin, let's test your knowledge in our segment Test Your Learning. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this edition of News Today. For the quiz solutions and to download the PDF version of News Today, please visit the links provided in the description below.